Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. First thing, I want to tell you that I have the honor and the privilege to give the word and the chair to General Commissioner Mario Vattani, thanking him for hosting this event here and our group of people that have come from all over the world here. So Mario, please, thank you.
Grazie mille, thank you very much, Paolo, my senpai, as we say in Japan, the one who has had the experience before, because Paolo Glisenti, as you all know, probably know, was the Commissioner General for the Italian pavilion and the Italian participation in Expo Dubai. You can imagine that Dubai comes up often. It isn't less now, but in the beginning, Dubai came up often as we were preparing for this expo, which is very different, of course, in size, in theme, but of course, these are always moments, and you know it very well. There are great opportunities for our country to talk about itself, to let people know more, to widen and deepen the knowledge of Italy. And we are very, very happy to welcome today in the Italian pavilion, together with you all, Licia Ronzulli, the Vice President of our Senate. The legislative branch's role has been important in all our planning, I have to say. And when we talk of the great challenges that we and Japan, as a matter of fact, face together for the future, then we understand how important it is to have the legislative branch work with us. Because when you talk of longevity, aging population, natural disasters, lack of natural resources and therefore also green energy, sustainability, and also what we're talking about today, and I welcome the delegations today from so many important Italian universities, in particular, of course, Florence, and I welcome Grazia Tucci, which is the director of CHEDAR, that's how we call it here in the Italian pavilion. When we talk of these very important challenges, then it is very important to think long-term. And when we think long-term, the role of the legislative branch is very important. So thank you very much, Vice President Ronzulli, for being with us today, and we look forward to listening to you after this. Just a quick word, because my role here is to welcome you and to welcome this and other events that we have had the opportunity to present thanks to our Ministry of University and Research. And once again, I have to thank Minister Bernini, who has joined us since the very beginning. Paolo, it was the first meeting that I signed. In fact, I didn't sign it. My deputy, Elena Sgarbi, signed it because I had just been nominated at the time. It was one of the first agreements that we had with the Ministry of University and Research. I know that you must have been behind that, because it was important to bring to Osaka not only our Sistema Italia, as we call it, so our industry, our economic sectors, our manufacturing sector, our design, art and culture, of course, which you will see when you visit our pavilion, but it was important to have the academic world here, because when we talk about legacy, and when we talk about the use of 6 months of a platform, of a precious platform, which is also a very important investment, then it is important to have the academic world. We have the academic world, also thanks to our Ministry of University and Research. We've had students here, and I conclude. we are not only showing Italy here, we're not only bringing products, high quality, or excellencies. We are not just showing that. This pavilion is a pavilion which talks about relations between Italy and Japan. We have a strategic partnership with Japan since our Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, started this in January 2023. And part of this strategic partnership is an action plan which goes from 2023 to 2027. So you see, we are talking long term, we are talking legacy. This pavilion, in our view, is part of this action plan, is part of our strategic partnership with Japan. So thank you for what you will do today. Have a nice day of panels. I see that you have a lot of things going on. Thank you for showing also what has been done, because it's very important to see what it means when we talk about digitalization of cultural heritage and so on. So thank you for showing us this. Everything we are doing today will be shown outside, and your videos will be online. And so we try to keep these things alive and to keep the interest of our public, but especially of our experts and the people who are protagonists of this relationship. So thank you very much. Thank you once again, Vice President Ronzulli. And I look forward to keeping in touch with all of you also after Expo, because we are talking of that. Thank you very much. Grazie.
Thank you, Mario. And please, I ask Vice President of the Senate Ronzulli to join us here.
Allora, buongiorno a tutti. Ohayo gozaimasu, corretto? Grazie. Allora, desidero innanzitutto esprimere un sincero ringraziamento all'ambasciatore Mario Vattari, commissario generale per l'Italia Expo 2025, per la straordinaria passione, l'altissima competenza con cui sta guidando questo padiglione, questo progetto di così grande valore, coordinando ogni fase di un lavoro complesso che coinvolge istituzioni, imprese, regioni e mondo della ricerca, e la sua capacità di promuovere il padiglione Italia come vetrina sul mondo rappresenta un esempio di diplomazia efficace e, oserei dire, anche moderna. Un ringraziamento altrettanto sentito va Elena Sgarbi, commissario generale aggiunto, per il contributo prezioso con cui accompagna e sostiene ogni fase di questo percorso. Un grazie di cuore al console generale Filippo Manara per la sua cortesia, attenzione e per il concreto e costante supporto. Ovviamente un grazie ai relatori, a Paolo Glisenti, davvero artefici di questo innovativo progetto CHEDAR, un progetto che unisce tradizione, nuove tecnologie per proteggere e valorizzare il patrimonio culturale italiano attraverso la ricerca, attraverso la formazione, con un approccio multidisciplinare. E sono profondamente onorata di portare il saluto del Senato della Repubblica, del Presidente Ignazio La Russa, e sono orgogliosa come italiana di farlo da questo meraviglioso padiglione, una cornice che rilegge in chiave contemporanea l'idea rinascimentale della città ideale, ricordandoci che la persona deve restare sempre al centro delle risposte che diamo alle sfide della società e del progresso. Expo 2025 di Osaka si inserisce in un contesto di forte rilancio delle relazioni tra Italia e Giappone. Oggi sono fulcro dell'attenzione internazionale dell'area Indo-Pacifica, una delle più dinamiche e strategiche al mondo per l'Italia e per l'Europa. I nostri rapporti bilaterali, lo sapete, sono eccellenti, si distinguono per l'intensità delle relazioni commerciali, culturali, industriali e scientifiche, rafforzate da un partenariato in settore ad alta tecnologia. E questa collaborazione dimostra come Italia e Giappone non siano soltanto partner economici, ma veri alleati nella costruzione di un futuro fondato su innovazione, su sostenibilità e progresso condiviso. E per custodire e valorizzare il nostro patrimonio è necessario formare una nuova generazione di esperti multidisciplinari che devono essere capaci di integrare ingegneria, gestione dei rischi, informatica, intelligenza artificiale. E non a caso, durante la presidenza del G7, l'Italia ha promosso una visione di progresso tecnologico fondata sull'armonia tra intelligenza artificiale e centralità del fattore umano. Ed è importante che questo slancio non venga disperso. Occorre continuare a sostenere iniziative di diplomazia culturale come questa, che rendano il nostro Paese sempre più competitivo e attrattivo a livello internazionale. Sostenibilità, sviluppo, innovazione rappresentano la risposta italiana alle sfide del futuro, come ben simboleggiato dallo splendido Atlante Farnese, che è collocato proprio nel cuore del padiglione Italia qui a Osaka. L'Atlante è il simbolo dei valori che l'Italia porta a Expo, la ricchezza del nostro patrimonio culturale, le responsabilità che esso comporta, ma anche la forza della nostra scienza, della ricerca, dell'alta tecnologia. È il segno di uno spirito che ci appartiene da sempre, quello del viaggio, della scoperta, del dialogo con altre culture. E uno degli aspetti più significativi della nostra presenza Expo 2025 a Osaka è lo spazio dedicato alla promozione delle regioni e le loro realtà locali, perché sono mosaico di identità, di tradizioni che rappresenta al meglio la ricchezza delle diversità del nostro Paese, un patrimonio che vogliamo condividere, vogliamo valorizzare davanti a tutto il mondo. Il Padiglione Italia si presenta come autentica espressione di valori, della creatività, del talento, dell'ingegno, dell'innovazione che da sempre caratterizzano la nostra nazione. Il Padiglione Italia non è soltanto un luogo espositivo, una vetrina, ma è un vero e proprio ambasciatore della cultura, dell'eccellenza, dello stile di vita italiano. Un luogo in cui l'arte, la scienza, la tradizione e il futuro dialogano in modo armonioso. È un vero e proprio avamposto del sistema Italia in una delle aree più prospere e dinamiche dell'Asia. E in più nel Padiglioni si coglie il valore, come dicevo prima, dell'io da una parte, del noi dall'altra, l'io delle persone, dei talenti, delle eccellenze che raccontano l'Italia al mondo, e il noi di una comunità che, unita, sa trasformare questa ricchezza in una visione condivisa di futuro. Expo 2025 è dunque un'occasione unica per mostrare come il nostro Paese sappia unire tradizione e innovazione, radici profonde e anche visione del futuro, mantenendo ovviamente sempre al centro, come dicevamo, la persona, le relazioni e il valore della cooperazione internazionale. E da qui, quindi da Osaka, vogliamo lanciare un messaggio forte. L'Italia non è soltanto custode di un grande passato, ma protagonista anche di un futuro che parla di bellezza, di sapere, di responsabilità e di speranza, mi piace dire. Quindi l'Italia crea, l'Italia innova, ispira. L'Italia è qui, è orgogliosa e pronta a mostrare al mondo che il talento, la bellezza e la conoscenza possono davvero cambiare il domani. Un futuro che vogliamo ovviamente costruire tutti insieme con l'orgoglio della nostra storia e con la forza delle idee, perché l'Italia possa continuare a ispirare, come dicevo prima, il mondo. Questo è il nostro impegno, questo è il nostro messaggio, tutto questo che ho raccontato si chiama Italia. e vi ruberò soltanto pochissimi secondi perché spesso si parla di numeri, ne abbiamo sentito parlare tanto, centinaia di eventi, migliaia di partecipanti, investimenti, per carità, accordi che servono sempre, sono numeri straordinari ovviamente, ma dietro ogni cifra ci sono le persone che hanno contribuito a rendere il Padiglione Italia così come lo vediamo oggi. Ecco, quindi a voi, voi che affrontate sacrifici, stanchezza, imprevisti, sempre con pazienza, ho visto ieri, ma anche col sorriso, a voi che lavorate con dedizione silenziosa, lontano dai riflettori, ma soprattutto in questi mesi lontano, molto lontano da casa, voi che rendete il Padiglione un luogo capace di emozionare, di stupire, di lasciare un segno nel cuore di chi lo visita. Ecco, voi siete i veri ambasciatori dell'Italia. Senza di voi nulla di tutto questo sarebbe possibile. Senza di voi l'Italia non potrebbe mostrarsi al mondo nella sua luce migliore. E quindi a nome del Senato della Repubblica che rappresento questa mattina vi dico davvero grazie, grazie di cuore, grazie per rappresentare un paese accogliente, competente, creativo e orgoglioso della propria identità. Siate fieri di ciò che fate perché noi lo siamo di voi. Grazie. E uno speciale ringraziamento anche ovviamente a Madame Keiko che è in cabina interprete, ha reso possibile questo speech nella mia lingua e un ringraziamento alla dottoressa Paladini per il supporto che mi sta dando in questi giorni. Grazie, arigato, ve lo dico bene, arigato gozaimasu.
Grazie. Thank you. Thank you to the Vice President of the Senate, Ronzulli, and to the Commissioner General Mattani. And let me just pick it up from here to lead you to where we're going to be through the day. I just want to start saying that this project, CHEDAR, or CHEDAR, depending on your language of origin, is the first ever legacy project generated by an expo. So we're witnessing the beginning of a new course of action where expos like Osaka, like Dubai, will generate follow-ups to projects, and this is the first project, the CHEDAR project, leading to Riyadh 2030 and creating a line of action, a line of thoughts, line of partnerships and agreements that will make an history of understanding, teaching, education, research, and so forth. So this is my first point, is to point out how important this event is, part of an itinerary that will take us around the world. Second issue I want to point out is that the focus of the project in terms of the geographic focus is what we call the wider Mediterranean area. This project was born in Dubai and is going now around the world, but the country origin is the core of the Mediterranean area, where we're having agreements in course of definition and so forth. So this is also important for us because I think we'll project the project as a tool of understanding, participation, partnerships around an area which is very rich of cultural heritage, but also very fragile in terms of diplomacy, institutional, political courses of actions, especially nowadays. I remember that the project was born with the Ministry of University at that time in Dubai as a mean to show how archaeological goods can be protected and reproduced when they are lost and damaged in war zones. This was done when the Ukraine-Russia wars just started during the Dubai Expo. And the idea was, let's show the world how important it is to reconstruct cultural heritage goods lost in war zones. Imagine today how much more important, unfortunate, these issues become around the world, around the Mediterranean area. And also, this project, and I will stop in a second, showed how the David statue was realized using aerospace technology and artisan work, covering the statue reproduced by these aerospace technologies with the marble powder from Carrara. How the same way Michelangelo did in 1521 when he was 26 years old, Michelangelo, and did the David statue. Imagine the visionary approach, the Renaissance approach. And we want to reiterate this because it's part of the base of our project, and we'll bring it over like this. Finally, the cultural diplomacy. The issue is now open to climate change, damaged goods, and archaeological heritage damaged by climate change, natural disasters, and so forth. So it's really expanding in a very large world. But the response we're having from various countries in the Mediterranean area and also in the Asia-Pacific area about willing to participate and be partner means that we are touching the central core issue of what is cultural diplomacy today. And we are proud as Italians to be leading this process of cultural diplomacy around the world. I think it's very, very important. And it's just not showing off. It's just a matter of studying it, implementing it in a multidisciplinary way with various partners, and so forth. Here the project starts with several universities. Today you will listen to some of them. And we will have workshops in the afternoon to see how the implementation of this can be brought down to practical, actionable work by university students, teachers, and scientists around the world. So again, let me start here, but to say how important this is, not only in terms of the project itself, but also the visionary that takes it over and puts it forward into this itinerary of events that we're going to have in the Mediterranean and in Riyadh in 2030. So thank you again for being here, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. You are free to ask questions, of course, but I will start immediately by giving the floor to Professor Grazia Tucci, who is the head of this project and also a very important professor, geomatic and reconstruction and material use of for reconstruction in many, many areas of culture and archaeology and so forth. So Grazia, please join us and give us the project, okay? Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And let me start by thanking Ambassador Mario Vattani for welcoming us here at the Italian pavilion. Really, the list of the people I should thank is a very long list, but I will stop here. And I would anyway thank Paolo Glisenti for believing in the vision behind CHEDAR. I am equally honored to welcome our distinguished guests, our Japanese colleagues, and the representative from the Department of Culture and Tourism of Abu Dhabi. Your presence embodies the truly global spirit of this initiative. And in my role of counselor of the Italian ICOMOS committee, I also bring Ambassador Vattani the warm greetings of our president and our committee. Being here in Osaka is particularly meaningful. Japan has long been at the forefront of heritage protection. After the war, with the Bunkazai Ogoho law of 1950, the country has built one of the most rigorous systems in the world. This journey was crowned by the Nara Document of Authenticity in 1994, a milestone that reshaped how we think about context and authenticity in heritage. But Japan has not been only a guardian of tradition, it also has been a pioneer of innovation, from the photogrammetry and the LiDAR programs at Tobunken and Nabunken to the digital archives and virtual museums of Rijksmuseum University. Japan has shown how advanced technologies can serve memory and open heritage to new generations. I recall vividly my time in Cambodia, observing Japanese teams, the Japan Apsara safeguarding Angkor project that work on the Bayon Temple. Their approach to anastylosis, dismantling, studying, restoring, and reassembling stones one by one with meticulous documentation was not only a masterclass in conservation, it was also a lesson in diplomacy. The detailed record, now accessible even through public databases, become tool for building trust, knowledge sharing, and local capacity. This is a lesson we carry into CHEDAR. Documentation is not static, and it's never only technical. It is a universal language. Here at the Expo 2025 in the heart of Osaka, we believe this work can contribute to consolidating that vision. Cultural heritage not only has memory, but has diplomacy, cooperation, and peace. CHEDAR began under, as Paolo already said, under the Legacy Expo 2020 Dubai program. It grew from the worldwide attention gained by the reproduction of Michelangelo's David for the Italian pavilion. It started from a symbolic challenge and has been transformed into an international vision. It is not only about protecting the past, but about reimagining the future of cultural heritage through innovation. The project is funded by the Ministry of Universities and Research. It's not a very large project, but we do have some resources. And the University of Florence coordinates the CHEDAR project, but we work with universities, research center, and art institutes that are here in this place now, in this room now. Plus two important partners, ICOMOS Italy and the SIPA Heritage Documentation. We are also finalizing a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Culture and Tourism of the United Arab Emirates, a strategic step that expands CHEDAR's international dimension. Together, we showcase excellence in heritage digitalization, advanced diagnostics, restoration, and 3D reproduction. When we talk about heritage, we talk about ourselves. It's our memory, our identity, our values. It's also a driver for innovation, creativity, and sustainable growth. But as been already said, heritage is fragile. It faces traits from nature and from human activity. Climate change reshapes landscapes. Tourism, if unmanaged, can destroy rather than enrich. And worse, they plunder, they erase. But fragility means also new opportunities, can open doors. The digital transition equips us with powerful tools to understand, protect, and share heritage, restoring its central role in innovation, inclusion, and sustainable growth. Italy has always been a reference point in heritage protection. Our expertise was shaped not only in museums and labs, but also in emergencies, from earthquakes to wars. We have learned to turn these challenges into cultural diplomacy. And today, CHEDAR builds on this legacy to face new risks and to rethink how we combine conservation, restoration, and valorization. CHEDAR looks to the Mediterranean region in a broader sense, rich in cultures and histories, yet vulnerable to climate change, inequality, and instability. Rising seas, droughts, and conflicts all put heritage at risk. Our mission is strengthen resilience and safeguard this priceless legacy. Through the partnership with UAI, we are opening a path to collaboration with other countries, fostering dialogue and sustainable cooperation. CHEDAR is establishing a research center grounded on 4 pillars: documentation and digitalization to preserve memory, safeguarding and conservation through advanced diagnostics, valorization and accessibility, opening heritage to new audiences through technology and creative reuse, climate change and risks management for a sustainable future. Research alone is not enough. Education is the bridge that carries innovation into society. Through CHEDAR Academy, we are building an international training hub where future cultural professionals can acquire the skills to lead the digital transformation responsibly and inclusively. Together with experts from the UAI, we are shaping a shared educational program that embraces a truly international and cross-cultural perspective. CHEDAR Academy offers massive open online courses, master classes, seasonal schools, and intensive program. CHEDAR is developing a series of MOOCs that cover 6 key areas: heritage and digital transformation, conservation and sustainable practices, risk, crisis and resilience, communication and inclusion, policy and rights, innovation in materials and technologies. They range from digital transformation and sustainable conservation practices to resilience in time of crisis, communication and inclusion, policies and rights, and finally, innovation in material and technologies. We can go to the other slide, maybe, together, just to have an overview of the courses that we are offering and we are still preparing. Together, these courses provide a comprehensive framework to connect heritage with today's global challenges. We are starting by focusing on essentials. First, we will look at the very definition of cultural heritage, then address digitization and documentation, risk management, and the key issue of data government. Once these foundations are in place, we will move on to more specialized topics, for example, earthen architecture, so important in oasis context, and the territorial scale, where water systems and the relationship with green landscapes are central. This step-by-step path will enable learners to progress from core principles to advanced context-specific expertise. Let me show you a teaser, just a teaser of one of the MOOC that we are preparing. It's just 1 minute. I don't know if there is audio. I think should be audio. Maybe not.
One that helps shape cultural ecosystems rich in meaning, connections, and engagement.
Designing this transformation requires a strategic and conscious process, building skills, adopting standards, and following the FAIR principles: findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. It also means choosing the right tools for each context, carefully documenting each step, and managing data, metadata, and paradata. All of this ensures that digital resources remain accessible, meaningful, and ready to be shared.
Learn to apply international standards and design sustainable 3D digitization processes. Develop the skills to define objectives, write technical specifications, and manage realistic budgets. Understand how to enhance and preserve digital heritage and evaluate emerging technologies like AI and digital twins in context. Plan, test, evaluate, implement, shaping the digital future of cultural heritage. This course is designed for those driving innovation in museums, public institutions, archives, and research centers, directors, curators, technicians, and cultural professionals. It is an interdisciplinary training path focused on quality, sustainability, and accessibility in 3D digitization. The safeguarding of cultural heritage is evolving. The course will soon be available online on CHEDAR Academy.
Join the course. Cultural heritage is a shared responsibility, the result of the relationship over time between people and places. gain the tools to manage it consciously and sustainably.
Okay, just to give an idea of what these courses will be, of course, they are focused, the project is dedicated to the Mediterranean area, but these kind of courses will be online, so they will be available everywhere in the world. So CHEDAR is more than a project. It's a growing international network, a dynamic environment where collaboration generates impact. What's next? We are already organizing some other events. Here, you will meet us in Abu Dhabi Forum on Cultural Heritage this November. Maybe Ona will tell you about this. A workshop in Al Ain in November 2026. Also, we are organizing a workshop in Lucera in the south of Italy, and we will be there on September. And another workshop will be organized in San Mezzano, a symbolic bridge between Italy and the Arabic world. So you can see this from the picture. It's a very, very interesting castle. And 1 year from now, there will be a conference in Florence to mark the 60th anniversary of the flood. So knowledge is not complete until it's shared. That is why CHEDAR communicates through a dedicated website, active social media, a YouTube channel, and even a monographic issue of Archeomatica. Maybe you already found it on your chairs. Each platform ensures that our work is visible, transparent, and engaging for diverse audiences. In a world often divided, culture remains a bridge. Investing in heritage means investing in peace, dialogue, and shared identity. And so, standing here in Osaka, we are reminded that safeguarding the past is ultimately a way of shaping the future together. I will stop here because we will have the chance to continue with some specific topics later.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Tucci. Thank you very much. You launched a big session today of thoughts and ideas and dialogues. We can start it here. Sure, thank you. Una foto. I'm sorry, this is the topic of the day for me.
Eccoci. Benissimo.
Grazie.
Perfetto,
Grazie a te.
Yes, come. Yes. Vieni.
Grazie.
Quando mi capita. Yeah.
Eccoci. Noi ci
Però
vediamo
tutte
a
queste foto
Firenze.
non ci sarebbero state.
Special thanks to my new
Thank you. All right, great. Thank you very much. We can continue. And Grazia has just touched a point of discussion which I think is very interesting, is how digitalization, digital technologies will help us prevent cultural heritage destruction, preventing the risk that they're going to be taken impacting on cultural heritage. I think that's the move forward into a visionary approach of how this digitalization is not just past reconstruction, but is also future protection of cultural heritage goods and so forth. And on this point, I'm honored to ask to give the floor to Hirofumi Kawa, who is Senior Cultural Properties Specialist at the Cultural Affairs at the Agency of Cultural Affairs in Japan. Please, thank you. Take the floor. Thank you.
Buongiorno. Hi. So thank you very much for welcoming me today. My name is Hirofumi Kawa, and I work for the Agency for Cultural Affairs in Japan. Until 2023, I was seconded to ICROM. Maybe some of them knows the International Center for the Study of the Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property in Rome. where I had the privilege to learn from Italy's remarkable heritage management systems. On a personal note, during that time, my family and I lived in the Marconi district in the south of Rome. My eldest son attended an Italian high school, and my younger son went to the public middle school. We truly enjoyed our life in Italy, and I am genuinely delighted to have this opportunity to connect with all of you from Italy once again. Thank you. So now allow me to return to the main topic. Having returned from Italy, I am now in charge of disaster prevention for cultural heritage in Japan at the Agency for Cultural Affairs. My mission is simple to state but complex to achieve: protecting cultural heritage from disasters. 6 years ago, the world watched in shock as flames engulfed Notre Dame Cathedral in France. That same year, in my own country, we lost Okinawa's Shuri Castle to fire. These tragedies remind us of a painful truth: fire can erase centuries of history in just a few minutes. In my country alone, there are over 5,000 buildings designated as cultural heritages. This period across our island nation. This threat is not unique to Japan. In the Mediterranean, abnormal weather patterns are making wildfires more frequent and severe. In other regions, flood, storms, and earthquakes pose equal danger. Disasters know no borders. Therefore, our response must be borderless as well. If you visit a historic Japanese temple or shrine, you might notice small cylindrical devices mounted on the pillars. These are part of Japanese unique disaster prevention systems. In a fire, early detection is essential. Our flame detectors are so sensitive they can register a small lighter flame from 30 meters away. But detection alone is not enough. The next step is initial firefighting. The water cannons we install are automated for rapid response. To give you a clear picture of these advanced systems, I would now like to show you a short video of about 1 minute. It features a water cannon system designed for fire spirit prevention installed at the famous Sanju Sangen-do Temple in Kyoto. Sanju Sangen-do is a national treasure of Japan, known for housing over 1,000 statues of the 1,000 armed cannon. This footage was provided by Air Jubun Bose. I think today the engineer will come here. And the company that engineered and installed this technology. So this is quite a long span building, and we need to install more than 10 water cannons for fire protection. Okay, the end of the video. And not only fire, now I'd like to shift topics slightly and talk about preparedness for large-scale disasters, earthquake. Japan lives with constant seismic risk. The most feared in the Nankai-through earthquake, with an 80% probability of occurring in the next 30 years. This earthquake could generate massive tsunamis and cause unprecedented damage. We cannot spend every day in fear, but we can understand and plan for risk. That's why I hold Italy's vincoli system in such high regard. Imagine a map showing every cultural site in the country over 200,000 and overlaying it with hazards like flood, landslides, or earthquakes. By calculating risk, hazard, vulnerability, authorities can prioritize where to act first. This system proved its value during the 2009 L'Aquila earthquake and the 2012 Emilia earthquakes. Instead of rushing in blindly, Italy's cultural heritage teams had a scientifically informed action list. They knew which buildings were most at risk and could save vital archives, artworks, and architectural elements before further damage occurred. In Japan, we are also considering the introduction of similar tools, but we tend to excel at site-specific solutions, a bottom-up approach, so to speak. Italy, on the other hand, demonstrates the power of a top-down integrated approach. The truth is we need both. As we've seen, preparing for sudden disasters like fires and earthquakes is extremely important. However, we must also turn our attention to the threat that advances silently unseen. Not all threats arrive suddenly, like the slow deterioration of wood, tiles, and stone are silent destroyers. Neglected buildings suffer from roof leaks, insect infestations, and structural weaknesses. These problems not only threaten the building itself, but also multiply repair costs, sometimes making restoration impossible. And in 2017, we began to project using AI to detect roof damage from drone photography. At the time, AI still has its limitations. Our data set was so small and accuracy was modest, around 76% for detecting gaps in the roofs. But AI has since made a quantum leap. Systems like CNN can now detect cracks that are only millimeter wide. This is not just faster, it's a life-saving technology when thousands of sites need monitoring. The future lies in integration. Drones capture visual data, IoT sensors gather environmental data, and cloud-based AI analyzes it all. This transforms maintenance from reactive to preventive. Every country has its strengths. Italy's strengths are in systematic documentation and national level coordination. Japan's strengths are in hands-on practical prevention measures. What we can learn from Italy, how to manage large-scale long-term databases, method for scientific risk assessment, so to say. And projects like CHEDAR, which combines 3D data recording, international expertise, and shared strategies, show how essential cooperation is in an age of climate change, urbanization, and resource constraints. Cultural heritage belongs to all of humanity, whether in the Mediterranean or the Pacific. Disasters do not wait, and they don't discriminate. By combining Italy's powerful mapping and risk analysis with Japan's technology and community networks, we can keep the flame of history alive for generations to come. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Ikawa, and I think your remarks, your speech was very important for us to understand complementarity of this visionary approach to risk prevention from Italy to Japan and, of course, international. So I think it's a very strong base for this international dialogue of cooperation and so forth. So I thank you very much for this contribution, which now I think brings as a very important point of discussion the theme of education, because all of this brings us to the new generations of Italians, Japanese, Mediterranean families and so forth in terms of how architectural digital reproduction can be part of the educational process. Let me just point one thing out. we are not talking about, if I understand well, the physical, single, specific reproduction of an archaeological good. We're talking about also the environment in which those archaeological goods were constructed, built up, and so forth. So this pertains to the reproduction of national identities, social identities, territorial identities, not only the physical single topic. And this is part of, I think, will be part of a very important humanitarian immersive educational approach we can bring forward. So I'm really glad to ask Professor Rumi Okazaki of the Shibaura Institute of Technology in Tokyo to join us and give us a presentation. Please, Professor Okawa.
Okay. Hello. My name is Rumi Okazaki from the School of Architecture, Shibaura Institute of Technology in Tokyo. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. I think my experience with Italy was first in high school years. I went to high school in Germany, and our art school art teacher decided to take us to Florence on a school trip. So we went from Düsseldorf to Florence by train. It took us 13 hours to get there, but it was a fantastic experience, and I think it has also led me to this profession where I am very much interested in heritage. So today I'd like to talk about especially the architectural digital heritage documentation and education in Japan. So my background is architecture, and of course digital documentation is done everywhere. Archaeologists, geologists, we also have AI specialists, ICT specialists. Many sectors are working on this, and we are very curious and also happy to learn from Italy, which has very innovative projects. Okay, so I'd like to talk about three main topics, which is mainly working on the documentation in Japan. One is private company, which normally has big budgets, big projects. Secondly, research institutes. These include national institutes related to heritage, and also university where I work with students. I'm sorry, I have trouble with this. Okay, so first, I'd like to show some projects from Japanese companies. One is the project of the restoration of Nagoya Castle. So this castle was built in 1612. It was bombed during the Second World War. It was the first national treasure in Japan. And it was rebuilt in concrete after the war, but recently they decided to reconstruct in wood. So one of the big companies, construction company, is in charge of this. And why we can reconstruct in wood is because we have so much documentation. These are original drawings. And in Japan, we have a big history of documenting. So from this, they are building, they are digitalizing in 3D. These are the wooden structures into H-beam. This is by Takenaka Corporation. So you can see the different wooden materials. Also, there are other private companies working closely with museums. So this is like Nakasha Creatives. Or, for example, Toppan is a very big printing company in Japan, which also focuses on documentation and making these documentation available to the public. They have recently opened the Koishikawa Cross, the Digital Heritage Museum, and this really helps us to engage in cultural heritage. Secondly, the research institutes. We have big national research institute related to cultural properties, one in Tokyo and one in Nara. This one is about the castle stone walls. They are making the beam, and the national research institutes are very much into digitalization of heritage. So this database viewer was recently opened so that people can collaborate to put 3D data onto this viewer and for the public also to view. It's still kind of on a testing stage, but we are getting data, and we hope that more and more data will be put together. So the database looks like this. This is the part of the stone wall of the Osaka castle. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the university projects. So in Japan, as an architecture school, we have training classes for architects, but this class is very much related to the national license of architects. And because the national exam for architecture license is based on hand drawing and also tests, we tend to focus, the classes in university tend to focus on hand drawing still. And we have 4 years of bachelor's and 2 years of master course, but it's very difficult for us at the moment to put these kind of digital heritage documentation classes inside the curriculum. So this is what we are struggling with. So with my students, I mainly work as a research project or as extracurricular activities. So we do trainings. We also had international workshops. This is with Addis Ababa universities. I think the students are very much engaged, and this is also great because especially for younger students, because it's very difficult, especially in Japanese architecture, to understand all the wooden structure. Mainly, our wooden structure, the most complicated part is inside the roof. So in this way, we are able to explore it in 3D, and the students will be able to understand. So we are doing workshops. And also heritage is not just about beautiful things, but as Mr. Ika was explaining, there are natural disasters. We also have kind of like a human-made disaster, which is kind of like a demolition of buildings. Well, in Tokyo, now we have a lot of redevelopment projects. This is sometimes good, but also destroys a lot of urban historical fabric and communities. So near our university, there is a big, what we call a tower mansion project, which demolished a big piece of urban fabric. And one of the house of our professor was here. He was born there, and he was very sad about it, and we decided to document. So this kind of training also became like an activity for students to document. I think we have a lot of tasks to do. We are losing a lot. This is also a very famous building by Kisho Kurokawa, which was demolished in 2022. It was right after COVID, and it was very sad, but thankfully one of the owner was very into documenting the building, so we had the opportunity to go inside and document the building. There are also other universities working outside of Japan. For example, the Tsukuba University, their team was also presenting in SIPA about their project in Cambodia. But I would say that these projects are very much limited in Japan. I think in Italy it is not something very not common, but I mean very common in Italy, but in Japan we are still just starting. So I think it's a very good opportunity for us to be exposed into your projects and to have this kind of connections to really gain ideas about future documentations. So we also have partners. We also noticed that there are a lot of demolishing buildings outside Japan. So with the students, we are going outside to document. And also because the Japanese government is very much into technology, this kind of topic is also very attractive to people who are not necessarily interested in cultural heritage. But with these projects, they can go back into the interest. So last year, in 2024, it was the 30th anniversary of Nara Document. And in ICOMOS Japan, we are really trying to rethink about the Nara document and heritage. So we have come up with this idea about a heritage ecosystem. Just now, it was mentioned that cultural heritage is not just about objects, but it is about environment, it is about climate, natural disasters, community, the intangible aspects. So I think we are also very much into thinking about linking all these things together and thinking about the future of our living heritage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Okazaki. It was very interesting. And I think this first part of our session today brings at the center of the discussion how global cooperation is going to be part of this digitization project of reconstruction, reproduction of heritage goods. So global cooperation, global agreements, global understanding, mutual exchange of students and teachers. Have you thought about the connectivities, the connections with what we are thinking about, what Japan is doing, how we can bring forces together, how we can create a mobility of students, scientists, and teachers around the same thing. And when we talk about global cooperation, we want to insist on the wider Mediterranean area as one of the core geographical places for our project. Not many people remember that United Arab Emirates, which is today one of the most innovative countries in the Mediterranean area, started 60 years ago to dig into the sand, into the desert, to bring up back to the surface the cultural heritage goods that were under the sand in the desert. 60 years ago, the United Arab Emirates started digging out. So just to show you how, we are in the same ship, in a sense, okay? So let me ask now Hona Vilekis, who is the head of documentation unit at the Department of Culture and Tourism in Abu Dhabi, and she's also Secretary General of CHEDAR Heritage Documentation, to start and please give us your contribution. Thank you, Ona.
Grazie Paolo. Buongiorno, konnichiwa, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. No pressure, I have two hats here. As Paolo mentioned, I work for the Department of Cultural Tourism in Abu Dhabi. It will be the hub for what we call CHEDAR project. So we discuss the difference in languages as well, right? CHEDAR at the end is what is bringing us together. And I'm also Secretary General of SIPA, Heritage Documentation. And we just came back, actually, from our 30th symposium from Korea. We flew yesterday, we closed, and we are here today. This is what it makes global what we are doing. I think the next slides is, yeah, perfect. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this image. Where is it located? And it's good Paolo is kind of blocking where is it located. This is in Egypt, and is the famous statue of Ramses the Great of the Great Temple of Abu Simbel. And why I like to start with this image. It's really far from here, but it actually was one of the bases of two important moments. And one of them is the creation or inspiration to build what is the concept of World Heritage. In the late 50s, the governments of Egypt and Sudan were planning a dam. We talked about risk today in the previous presentations, and they wanted to move, and this is what happened. They moved big temples, this is one of them, there were more than one, to a safe place while they could do this development. I'm not sure this could happen these days, especially after having such a strong protection like the UNESCO World Heritage Convention. But what is important here today is that the project was possible because of the amazing and detailed documentation that was made to move stone by stone, kilometers or meters to the right or left, and then upper part. And this is what it is, documentation. It has many aims. Next slide, please. This is what is Abu Simbel today. I was 2 years ago there. Although it's not in its original location, it was saved, and actually visitors can still go see the site. It is not a virtual reconstruction. There is a virtual one actually in the museum. I should have put that slide. There is a virtual reconstruction, but this is the original fabric. So documentation helps towards the conservation and has a pyramid of other aims. Next slide. So this is what is, when we talked about documentation, we asked, what are we protecting? What are we documenting? How do we do it? What are the technologies? When is the good time and where is the location? Most important for me would be the why. Why are we documenting? There are so many different tools to document a site, for example. So what is the purpose? Is it monitoring? Is it just the understanding? It will serve as a baseline record. So this is important for the documentation team to choose the right technique. And we were talking today about collaboration. So who is involved? Who are the stakeholders that take part of this documentation and we are documenting for? Next one, please. And there are many. Since 1968, when the Venice Charter appeared, there are many initiatives, documents, principles that have appeared throughout the way to help us to guide us how to document world heritage. For example, the ICOMOS principles, we had them in 1996, was when they were produced, and now we're working on a revised version that hopefully will be in 2026, next year, in the ICOMOS Malaysia General Assembly will be relaunched, let's say. There are other, if you go back to the previous slide, please. Yes, thank you. There, as I said, there are other set of documents that have appeared, and important for us is the appearance of SIPA heritage documentation. This is what I'm also representing today, and it came just after the creation of ICOMOS, which is the International Council for Monuments and Sites. And then we can go to the next slide. SIPA, we have 2 foot, one on ICOMOS, one on ISPRS, which is the International Society for Photogrammetry and Remote Sensing. And together, we are one of the oldest scientific committees of ICOMOS, and we are international. You see this photo? It was taken yesterday. And this is just a small group that was part of the symposium that we can carry out every 2 years. But what we do is bridging this gap between technologies and heritage. We also lead, and I think Grazia already showed as well and mentioned, different activities. And we have endorsed the CHEDAR project because we have the total faith that it's a project of collaboration, not only between Italy and the Arab Mediterranean region, but also of the world, and that's why we are here in Japan. We sponsor, as an international network, different activities. We promote, we encourage, and we provide a platform of symposium. So what technologies we use? All types of technologies, and it's not only about technologies and digital tools that we focus on, but digital documentation. So if you remember the first image that we had, you could also have hand drawings. I mean, it's part of what is documenting sites, and we see here today 2 objects that I think they were made digital, of course, and require or different tools rather than the ones that are shown here. Next slide. And this is what we also use. And I'm putting my other hat now because I am also representing the Department of Culture and Tourism where I work right now in Abu Dhabi. We have a different type of heritage. So I was listening at the previous presentations, and we moved from Italy to Japan and now to Abu Dhabi. We are different. And putting a set of standards to encapsulate the way we work is really difficult, but it's sometimes necessary in order to also share knowledge transfer. And there's some kind of adaptation between, for example, in the CHEDAR project, what Italy wants to transfer to this Mediterranean area. We will adapt, and we are working on this curriculum together to make sure the knowledge is transferred in the way we also need it in the region. We start with these questions that I mentioned at the beginning. I had this, but it's no, if you can put yes now. Yeah, exactly. And we use policies, and probably that's why we had such a interesting group sitting with us today. We had, ambassadors, we have the Senate president of Italy, now we have researchers, institutions, so it's all this mix that makes actually possible the documentation of the sites. This is just one example. If you click again, please, the slide, because there's a video embedded here. So there's different purposes, as I mentioned. What technologies do we use? We start the way we work in Abu Dhabi, but we use international standards. It's about planning, acquiring, processing, and really important, disseminating. That's why we are here today, to also transfer this knowledge to you, and hopefully everybody sitting here today will know what the CHEDAR project is about, what SIPA is about, and transfer all this information as well to the world. There's a vision that we have been discussing for many years, decades, on how we see documentation. But it's, as Grazia mentioned today, it's never ending, it's interactive, it's changing. That is the beauty of documentation. And I think all together, and together with Italy, Japan, the United Arab Emirates, and all over the world, we can actually continue envisioning and bringing documentation, digital technologies, innovation as part also of the agendas of different governments and institutions for the protection of cultural heritage. And I couldn't finalize this without thanking everyone, thanking the public, saying grazie alla Repubblica Italiana for having me today for this project that we are starting, really enthusiastic, and arigato to the government of Japan.
Thank you, Ona. Thank you very much. And we're ready to start the thematic panel, which is our second phase of the discussion today. So let me call to sit here Grazia Tucci, Gaetano Malandrino, Ivana Cerato, and Matthew Pollicino, so that we can start our thematic panel. Il 2 non c'è, non hai avuto il 2. Ok, so il 2. Okay, here we are. So this is the beginning of a thematic panel, focusing on something which I think will raise a lot of attention, which is creativity, how these projects and this approach, this technological approach, educational approach, brings up creative solutions, ideas pertaining, for example, to new museums, what they call museums of the future. Very interesting issue to discuss, and also cultural tourism, which is now becoming a focal point of people mobility internationally, transport mobility, and so forth. So I think we're going to have a very interesting panel discussion, which I want to take into speaking mode. So if you allow me, I will ask each of the panelists to respond to a specific question. And let me ask Gaetano first. Okay. Grazia can introduce it, okay? Please.
I have
Please.
some slides to introduce
Okay,
the issue.
great.
But first of all, sorry, as we are not in, we are in a less formal, okay. Thank you, Paolo. Just I would like to say that as we are in a less formal context now, I would like to thank Rossella Menegazzo, and I want to thank also my team, because they made a very strong, hard work to be here. So I would like to ask them to stand up, to let all people to know who they are. They are here in the room, so please, and I would like to ask you a big round of applause for them. Thank you. And of course, thank you for your work, and of course, thank you to our partners. They are here, and Paolo will introduce them now. So, today we will reflect together on 3 keywords: reproduction, creativity, and accessibility, and on how they intertwine with cultural heritage, shaping its role in contemporary cultural tourism. Why we speak of reimagining heritage? In Italy, we are surrounded by heritage every day. It is part of our landscape, part of our daily life. Not unlike the fish that does not realize it swims in water, we sometimes risk taking for granted what lies before our eyes. To reimagine means to pause, to look at heritage with fresh eyes, both critical and creative, because heritage is not static. It evolves with the societies that live alongside it. It is constantly reinterpreted, reproduced in different forms according to the value that people assign to it. Making heritage more accessible physically and culturally means enhancing its value for everyone. This is what artists have always done, discovering a new connection among familiar elements. Think, for example, of the reconstruction, both virtual and physical, of the statue of Constantine, presented in the exhibition Recycling Beauty. Thanks to the digitization of its fragments, historical knowledge, technology, and creativity come together to bring the past into dialogue with the present. At the international level, the issue is just as central. Organizations such as UNESCO, ICOM, and ICROM have emphasized it for years. The Faro Convention of the Council of Europe highlights the right of every citizen not only to benefit from heritage, but also to contribute to its valorization, calling for new models of shared management and new forms of access. A striking example is the Yungan Grotto in China, digitized and made accessible in virtual reality for millions of visitors. But let us be clear. Digital technologies are not about producing perfect replicas. Their power lies in deepening knowledge, enabling simulation and diagnostics, and creating immersive and inclusive experiences. The digital model of the boxer at rest, that one that you are looking at now, allows us to see details that normal visit could never reveal, and even inside of the gloves. Physical copies, virtual reconstructions, and 3D models do not replace the original. They complement it. They enrich understanding, reduce damage to the originals, and make them accessible to wider audiences. Think of the cave of Lascaux, closed since 1963 to preserve its prehistoric painting. The International Center for Cave Art, Lascaux Fort, offers a faithful reproduction that allows visitors to experience the wonder without endangering the original. At the same time, the creative reuse of digital data has become a driving force for contemporary art. It creates a bridge between past and present, generating new narratives in today's language, a language that engages with cultural tourism and with new forms of museum mediation. Accessibility, however, is not only about architectural barriers. It also means overcoming sensory, cognitive, linguistic, and technological barriers. The true goal is that every person, regardless of ability, background, or prior knowledge, can access, understand, and actively participate in cultural life. Finally, let us not forget the economic dimension. Digital creativity has become a driver of growth. The production of original works, illustrations, generative art, 3D modeling, fuels global markets such as NFT and specialized marketplaces, multimedia installations, architectural mapping, and augmented reality enrich cultural events, attracting audiences and sponsors, Museums that host digital art exhibitions see attendance rise and media visibility increase, with positive effects on local economies. And beyond that, digital art drives demand for software, technologies, and immersive spaces, creating a new production chains and professional skills. And you will have the chance this afternoon, for who will stay here, to have a look to some of our experiences in this field, like immersive tools and so on, and some other more engaging experience. Thank you, Paolo.
Thank you very much, Grazia. And I think this is a very interesting beginning of discussion here, so I want to ask Professor Gaetano Malandrino, who is architect and lecturer of the Academy of Fine Arts in Carrara, and also a very important expert in pedagogy and art education, and curator of many exhibitions in Italy. So I just want to ask you, Gaetano, please, to start getting our discussion. And I want to ask you one simple question. What in your mind, in your experience, is creativity? It is a long series of accidental discoveries, as we might be brought to think by looking at all of what we discussed today, or is creativity is something more planning, strategic, and forthcoming? Please.
Okay. Good morning to everyone. This is a very big question, because we have two things. First of all, some creativity exists in nature. We see dolphins that play, so they change the way they play. And this is a first impact. The creativity is something that is inside the nature. Some monks made activities and changed these activities for understanding. They catch food with different objects, so they find these objects. But for a human, what is creativity? Probably creativity is really a very interesting travel along the century. And sometimes is the idea to broken the rules, to broken the law. Here you can see a way for demonstrate this. In Italy, we have some books that are called, well known as trattati di architettura, the rules of architecture. They said about how we have to do for a good architecture. And in some place, like here in Lecce, the artists decide to broaden totally these rules, and they create something of new. The capitals that you see just on my back is uncommon, is unique. No one is another. There is no other one in all the world. Every elements inspire creativity. And in honor to our David, I had found in an exhibition a little David. What is creativity? Is also to joke with these things. And the idea that the children can approach to David with a little David is a creative idea. So the creative is approaches, sometimes it's a divergent process, but along the century, how many people had created, and how they had created, certainly with a school, with a teacher, and with a series of moments. For understanding well, I say, I oblige you to write in my firm for 10 years. At the end, you are able to make exactly my firm. But after 1 year, you start to change something, and then. This is how I explain art history. Can you move the... Yes, sometimes an artist puts something that is not well defined, you don't see immediately, but that little things change all the organization of the portrait. This is also creativity. This is also another point of view. And sometimes creativity is also to change the point of view. Normally, you don't see in this way this famous work of Caravaggio. If you look at the two photos, you notice that the big one, it's really terrifying. The other not. The other not is now exposed in Uffizi. That other one is how probably Caravaggio decided to create. But creativity is not the work of only people. Creativity is a team work. For example, you have here a work very famous, Ratto di Proserpina of Gian Lorenzo Bernini. He was one of the most important Baroque sculptors. For that work, that is so impressive, you have a team that worked, not only the master. There are someone that make the hand, and so is like a specialistic work. Every part of the work was made by different people, but the artist give the first point of view. But creativity is not only the big art. Creativity is also to create something with less resource. And for me, it's very interesting to talk about the black tent, because in a place where there isn't timber, and you can create something of, because you are a nomadic culture, you try to find solutions, and very creative solutions, with, for example, the black wool, and two only piece of timber, because the more important things is the timber to find in a desert. And this was really a creative way to create a house. And where is the art? The art is in the things that is called la hammar, that connect the two poles and was decorated. And this symbolizes the part that connect all the structure, and the structure can be used for this piece. So different kind of point of view, different kind of work.
Thank you, Gaetano. I think it's very interesting to say, if I understand exactly what you presented, that creativity is a strategy. Yes. Creativity is not accidental. It's not the result of a lucky moment, so to speak. It's very strategic and very teamwork, requires a teamwork approach. If I understand it correctly, creativity in that sense is very intersectorial, intergenerational, but requires the bringing together of minds and approaches to produce creativity in the future. I think that's a very important issue today for our discussion, and thank you, Gaetano, for addressing it so clearly. And I just want to now to move to our other panelists, whom I want to welcome very much. Ivana Cerato, she's an archaeologist and researcher at CNR and ICPS, specialist in digital technologies for heritage communication. I think that's an issue that we badly need to understand, and I ask Ivana to be so kind as to explain to us how digital technology transforming the documentation and prevention of cultural heritage, and how can these tools be turned into accessible and engaging experience. Ivana, please.
Good morning. Thank you for the invite me today to stay with in this moment, and also thank you for the organization, because I know that it's very hard to organize this kind of a workshop. Yes, I want just to start with a concept very important for me, that we know that the digital tools help us to document and preserve cultural heritage, but we have also the possibility to create a digital copies of artwork, of monument, and in this way we have also the possibility to archive and organize information. At the end of our process we have a lot of data, but what we have to use this data? It's important because this data is very important for the scientific community, but also it's important to create and to use for the experience, for the public. We have to share our knowledge also with the public. And then we can start with the digital resources, and with this we can help to create an engaged experience for the public. We have virtual tour, augmented reality, interactive apps, application that allow people to step inside the cultural heritage. This is very important, and to explore the cultural heritage in the new perspective and to understand better, in my opinion, the complexity and the fragility of our cultural heritage. Then also I wanted to start with another thing that also Grazia underlined in your speech, the bridge. That the importance that we have the bridge with the digital technology, we create a bridge from the researcher and the scientific community with the visitors, with the public that have to experience with our cultural heritage. Also, especially for the younger generation that are already very familiar with the immersive and interactive languages. Of course, I want also to underline that the digital experience is not a replacement for the real experience of visiting a museum of a historical site. It's important also to visit the historical, the monument, the museum. But with the digital reproduction, with the digital copy, we have the possibility to go inside our cultural heritage and to understand better the work that researchers at CNR, in the university, have on the cultural heritage. This is, for me, very important, because it's important that understand our work and to communicate our goal to the large public. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. I think that brings forward very nicely, very clearly, the connecting point between pure research and the end use that we all make of that research, which is not something that we can easily understand every day in our work. So I think your contribution is very, very important. And now I want to give the floor with a video contribution to Matthew Pollicino, who is the co-founder of the Bigger Picture. Which is the sequence?
Sorry.
It's okay. Okay. So let's follow the sequence. Let's follow the sequence. Okay. So after Ivana, it's you. Grazie. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Again.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Very, very nice. Very important. Please, Grazie. Take the floor. The question would be, could you tell us what the main use of digital reproductions of cultural heritage are today?
Yes, the idea was to talk about reproduction. Yeah. What does it mean? Because we, also Ivana talked about digital reproduction, but we we have some physical reproduction. We were talking about reconstruction, for example. So I would like to underline that reproduction is never neutral. It only acquires meaning in relation to the objectives we set. And first, we have to distinguish between digital reproduction and physical reproduction. They are not alternatives, but they are complementary. And digital reproduction was, of course, born as a scientific documentation. We started with scientific documentation. For example, the 3D surveys for diagnostics, monitoring, high precision metric model, they are the basis for the digital twins, no? Or for structural simulations, virtual restorations, or preventive conservation. Maybe there was, I don't know, the image of an angel. We had, I prepared an image of the angel, the first one. Okay, look at this angel. A 3D scan and tomography revealed the state of preservation of the wood and detected the metal inclusion inside it. No? So we can disassemble it, we can understand what is inside, we can then we will see, we used also this to understand how it was assembled in different situations, because they moved the statue in different positions. And depending to this position, the parts were assembled in different way. So this is a good way to understand how it was without really disassembling it. So let's go on with the other example, a structural model of Michelangelo's David. Of course, we digitized the David to make the physical reproduction, but it was also useful for the structural analysis, to analyze the structural stresses on the statue and to anticipate potential risk scenarios. And the other one about frieze, okay, this is another example. Frieze of Ospedale del Ceppo in Pistoia. We made orthophotos and 3D models to have a map of the materials and of the decay, while overcoming the physical constraint of distance. You saw before, it's like at 9 meters above ground. And we use these orthophotos to have some, to organize, to understand, to draw some thematic maps to understand the material, how they built, the state of conservation. And also, we had the chance to the chance to look at very, very high detail, like in these photos. You can see even the tears of these female figures' face, or we can digitally reconstruct a missing face by comparing it with others. The same model was also used creatively, becoming the scenography for a theatrical, is it correct? Performance.
Yeah.
So, and digital technologies also enable immersive experience. For example, in the next slide, this is a movie, we are in Palazzo Pitti, in the Saturn room, a video digitally removed. In this video, we digitally removed the paintings currently on display to reconstruct the original setting, when the walls were covered with tapestries commissioned by Ferdinando de' Medici. I don't know if it's possible to let go it faster, but in any case, you are looking now at the point clouds of the old building. Now we will enter in Saturno, in the Sala di Saturno's room, and you will see the 3D model of the room. Now, how is it now? How it is now? And then you will see how it was in the past, covered by these tapestries. So it allows, that means that the digital reconstruction allows us to travel in time and space, let's say, to go to travel in time, to go back in the timeline. Here it's okay. No, non riusciamo. It doesn't matter. Physical. I want to move to. We talked about digital reconstruction, okay, but now I want to move to physical reconstruction, physical reproduction. Because also for this, we also begin with digital data. But for different needs, we are not making copies. They are not forges. We are making copy for some declared and specific purpose. For example, here in this Cosimo the first dei Medici, Cosimo I dei Medici, we made a 3D model first, then we made a copy in order to preserve the original. Let's go on. And in this case, this solution is useful for that statue that are exposed to fragile or risky context. We could replace the original one, and we could save the original one, and we use the copy on the facade. Think of Michelangelo's David. It would have been impossible to place the original inside the Italian pavilion in Dubai because of the heavy. It would have been very difficult to transfer the original statue there. After that experience, the boxer at rest, that one that you saw before, was also reproduced for an exhibition in Beijing, in China. So copies are valuable not only for protecting the originals, but also for making works of art more accessible to different audiences. In many museums, we now find tactile 3D reproduction designed for the visually impaired, not only sculptures like this one. We have a blind people is touching the copy, and you have some example, but even painting reinterpreted in 3D, enabling tactile exploration of form and composition. And finally, there is the dimension of artistic re-elaboration. Some artists transform digital data into new objects that provoke, that what Gaetano was saying before, provoke emotions and spark reflection. Think of contemporary reinterpretation of the David, or ancient statue imagined as scrapped, or the works of Daniel Arsham, who recreates classical sculptures as if they were corroded archaeological finds from the future. Similarly, the reinterpretation of Sauro Cavallini bronzes transformed into shiny, colorful surfaces with a pop twist. From these recreations come the reproduction exhibited here today, such as the scaled down of David and the Bargello owls reinvented in blue and gold with, let's say, a playful touch. You were saying that it's something that should amuse us to also. So this is like a joke for us. It's like a pop art, okay? In short, digital and physical are not in opposition, but strengthen one another. They are two converging models of reproduction, which, depending on audience and objectives, open up ever new possibilities for understanding, experiencing, and reinterpreting our heritage.
Thank you, Grazia. Now, let me try to express probably somebody sharing my sense of this discussion. We're talking about creating a huge metaverse of culture, goods, elements, and this kind. My question to you, Gaetano, is how this deconstructualization, this metaversing of culture, heritage, and goods, really keeps and saves the integrity, the reality of this cultural material, how much it takes it out to, an abstract word. I'm trying to probably catching somebody feeling at this point of discussion, which I think is a very interesting point to clarify. Please, Gaetan.
I would like to, this arrived just from your question now and from what I had listened before. I think that in all the time, the man and the woman had reused. For example, after the fall of the Roman Empire, they reuse part of the architecture. So this is a typical, they change the use of some parts. In fact, we find very often tombstone that was one time other things, lapid or something, that they reused for create Renaissance tombstone and so on. Here I show you a very interesting things. For example, that is a case of reuse, and we have this place that was one time is a tomb, as a part of a big tomb was created in the 11th century. It's very special because for the first time in the Middle Age we have a lapid with 4 languages. Arabian, because it came from Sicily, Norman time. They have a very multicultural kingdom, and so is in Hebraic on the top, in Arabic language down, and in Latin and in Greek. So it's very interesting because it's a reuse of materials that arrived from century before. The porphyro arrived from Roman columns, for example. And now they found this in another position. It was reused, so it was not in the special context for what for which was created. A joke. I would like to make a joke with you. How can you see this is a part of a Liberty style? Everyone agree, but it's not the truth. This is a very old tomb. Is from the Renaissance, Luca della Robbia. But if I put near a Chinchini, you see very similar. So every time we have creativity that pass on, arrive very quickly to solutions, and then all humanity have to spend 500 years for arrive. Another same situations. Looks like eclectic pilaster, but is from the Sicilian Renaissance, for example. And you are inside a floral motif. So the contextualization is common sometimes for motive, for things. And is used until now for the way to create an approach between art and new media. Santa Apollinare in Classe is a very famous church of the Byzantine times, and is a part of a mosaic that someone had decided to use for create a connection in the schools. That's okay. They had to take other things that I have. A very, very interesting thing that is a reuse of Lupa Capitolina. This is a statue that, but I haven't seen here. That was used not now like a model, reinterpreted in the 2nd century after Christ, and became a pottery for probably perfumed oil or something like this. So the decontextualization is always used in the now, but also in the past. And very, very funny to see a lot of these examples. Also in other culture, is a common to see piece of other country. Unfortunately, I have lost the other one. Yes, the second group is more.
Okay, great.
I would like just only last thing.
Yeah.
It's very important the attitude to create a copy, not only for the conservations, but also because sometimes we are unable to make long distance, and the possibilities to have something more near, and with the new dimensions for ER that give the possibilities to create more activities above the piece is very important, above all for the schools, for example.
Great, thank you, Gaetano. And now the basic question, Ivana, is how can we communicate research in this digital area? Do you have examples on now? Because we are talking about communication, involvement, participation, etc., etc. But the issue that brings to mind now is how we communicate all this.
Yes, I want also in the afternoon, it's possible to try our experience. That the name is Brancacci POV. Brancacci POV is the point of view. It's important also to understand this part. Brancacci is based on a diagnostic campaign that we carry out in the Brancacci Chapel in Florence between 2022 and 2023. The project was to focus on the documentation and studying the Masaccio, Masolino, and Filippino Lippi's frescoes. It was a unique setup because we have the possibility to study the frescoes, to analyze the material, the painting technique, and the conservation condition of the frescoes. Was a very interdisciplinary project, but the point was how we share this result with the public, how we do make sure that this knowledge doesn't remain only for the specialists. It is important, but also reach the visitors. This is our goal. And we develop this application, Brancacci POV, that is an immersive journey. I don't want to explain a lot because I want that the person try this experience in the afternoon. But the important point that with this experience, you have a different point of view on the frescoes, because you have the point of view that the researcher, you see the frescoes very near. This is important because now it's impossible if you visit the Brancacci the Brancacci Chapel to see the frescoes in this way. And also to understand how the painter, because you have in the position like the painter in the past during his work. This is a new way to understand and also to have a different view of the frescoes. And then this is very important because, in my opinion, we use the digital tools, not the final goal. It's not I develop an immersive journey and this is no. It's important that I share this knowledge with the public, and the public have to understand our work and to go inside the frescoes. With the Brancacci POV, the possibility to go inside, not only what is possible to view, but to go inside to understand better the work of the painter, the work of the restorer, of the diagnostic work.
Thank you, great. Very interesting and very clear. That brings me, Gaetano,
can I
yes,
see
please?
a very short things?
Sure.
Why they have to see this chapel?
Okay.
Two things. in this way, you can enter inside Florence in the 15th century. First one, and the second one, because for these great frescoes, the same Michelangelo start a struggle against the destruction. The great Michelangelos that make David create a committee for stop the destroying of the frescoes, because at that time the conservation is an opinion, it was an opinion. And so if you have the possibilities, you see, because you really see the Florence of that time.
Great. Well, our contemporary is Michelangelo's today in terms of his thinking process and approach, and very, very important. I want to ask, if I may, a last question to Grazia, because it brings me to mind in terms of accuracy. All of this pertains to how is accuracy strategically relevant, important for all we're saying, or ... Please, Grazia.
That's my question, okay. You know that I come from geomatic background, let's say photogrammetry, topography, and they all take care of the millimeter, micromillimeter maybe. And today, technology allows us to survey and to reach this millimeter. But the real question is, do we always need that much precision, that much accuracy? And of course, there are fields where maximum accuracy is indispensable, like we already mentioned some example, scientific documentation for conservation, digital archives, or survey aimed at monitoring decay. In this case, millimeter is really important. But in other contexts, such as structural studies, we saw this David before, we don't need the same accuracy, because engineering, working with static models, face enormous uncertainties regarding the mechanical properties of material. So at that point, having a surface measured to the millimeter is not only unnecessary, but may even introduce as useless complication. To make this kind of analysis, we had to simplify all the data that we used for the reconstruction, because it was a nightmare. The software was not able to elaborate, to manage all the data that we collected. So this is different when we deal with interpretative reconstructions. The role of hypothesis becomes central in this case. The errors introduced are far greater than the precision of the survey. What really means is, in these cases, is the internal, let's say, coherence of the reconstruction, not the exact metric accuracy. And there are situations where precision has no importance at all, because the goal is symbolic or cultural. I have an example here, the case of Penco, the Napoleonic soldier that once stood on a rooftop, but the word is difficult for me, rooftop, and is still fondly remembered by the local community. The original no longer exists, but the small lead toy soldiers kept its memory alive. Starting from that little figurine, Erika, who is here with us, made a 3D scan. And later, Daniele Guerrini, he's with us as well, developed and printed it at human scale. Of course, many details were missing. So this is the small soldier. It was like maybe less than 6 centimeters. And we reproduced it at human scale. Okay. you know that many details were missing, so much of it was reinterpreted. But the result is that Penko came back to life, and the communities embraced him with enthusiasm. You can see it in the photos. Everyone wants a picture with him, with Penko, and in this case, precision didn't matter at all. What mattered was the cultural and emotional value that the reproduction gave back to the community. What I underline is that really accuracy is not an absolute value. It must be adapted to the goal. From scientific survey to creative reconstructions, each level of fidelity makes sense only in relation of its purpose, whether to document, to study, to share, or even to inspire.
I think it's a great point for discussion nowadays, also in the media world, communication world, how accuracy is not only a factual definition of the origin of each thing, but it's the way we present it. Is the way that the accuracy is brought into, you know, a broader environmental approach. And accuracy, your definition is, I think, very, very important and will make us think a lot about when we discuss false and true, accurate, not accurate. You know, we don't have a base for discussion, but I think you make a point that...
we have the panel later, faithful or unfaithful.
Yes, yes.
So we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Can I add also a word, because I'm an archaeologist, and in archaeology the accuracy is important, but doesn't change the history of the monument. Is the wall is 1 centimeter more or less than the reality. This is a point that also during my work on the archaeological site I underline to the student. It's important the building, but the accuracy. We have also to understand this.
Why and the balance.
Exactly.
Purpose and result.
Exactly.
All of this brings into a very actual issue, which is movie production, TV productions, film pipelines, and so forth. So that I think it will be very interesting to listen to the video contribution that Matthew Pollicino is an owner of the Stargate Studios in Malta and in the United States, and a long-term producer of film and movies that will tell us in a while when we show his video contribution. Matthew Pollicino, Stargate Studios, please.
Thanks for having me on the panel. My name is Matthew Pollicino, and I'm the managing director as well as the founder of Stargate Studios Malta, a company that exists on the island of Malta, an island very far away, that works in production and in post-production. In relation to the question, we operate in the film and television industry. Our industry works with digital assets. Everything we receive becomes a digital asset the moment it enters into our machines. And there on our machines, we bring together different assets from different parts of the pipeline. Some of those assets are in fact digital assets that have been scanned, digitized, LiDAR scanned, photogrammetry, all different aspects that bring the real world through various mechanisms into the film world. So then we can manipulate, we can alter, we can change, we can multiply, we can scale, we can do in a digital world what we cannot do in the practical world to a cost-effective solution. I've prepared a couple of examples which we will roll, which will show how we digitized for cinematic purposes a couple of sites on the island which are being showcased in the Malta Pavilion. The reason why we digitized these sites for showcasing is technical, and I'll explain it after you've had a look. So the sites, as you can see, are touristic environments, places which we cannot lock off from traffic. And we also wanted to achieve something which we couldn't get over the span of any given day, which is a time lapse where nobody is present, which means from sunset to sunrise, we wanted the shadows to travel over our site, but we wanted nobody to interact with the site, which means we would have had to lock off traffic or stop tourists or actually people who live in the area from going through. So scanning the location gave us the ability to put the asset into a computer-generated world and to do something that we were not allowed to do in real life. Another aspect we're going to show you is when it's expensive or difficult to take a film crew inside a site because of historical reasons. We're going to show you the scanning of St. John's Co-Cathedral, which is a beautiful treasure we have on the island, very precious, that we LiDAR scanned and captured through photogrammetry, not just for film purposes, but also for immersive experience. And this is a look at our works in St. John's Co-Cathedral. Those were just a couple of examples we can share with you. There are other examples we cannot share with you because they form part of an ongoing movie or film or situations that we don't own the freedom of distribution. the rights on the intellectual property. This sometimes are actors, props, sets, environments, things that have to stay inside the magic box of filmmaking. This is a world that we live in. We don't necessarily do things for cultural reasons, cultural protection or preservation. We do things to entertain, but nevertheless, they are the same tools that empower our digital artists to interact with the real world, giving us the opportunity to create something new and bring it closer to the viewer that may not have the opportunity in premise to see it prima facie. Thank you very much for this invitation. It was a pleasure to be able to share what we do in our studio. You may also get a glimpse of our work on the Malta Pavilion, so this is also an invitation to visit some of our national heritage in another site. ありがとうございます。次回はぜひ直接訪れる幸運に恵まれることを願っています。
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ivana. Thank you, Gaetano, and thank you, Grazia. Let's move fast to our second and final panel of discussion, thematic panel today. Please come to the stage I'll ask Hirofumi Ikawa, Ona again, Matthew Greco, Luigi Oliva, Giorgio Sobra, and Alessandro Conti. Please come over. While we're waiting for this setup, I remind you that we have interesting workshops in the afternoon. They are very entertaining and very inclusive, so I invite you to consider coming back in the afternoon for these workshops that will be in this same area with specific setups and very interactive, very conclusive workshops, and I think some of them very funny also, so very, very entertaining. Okay, so now we get to the last point of discussion. I want to ask my guests please the favor of being short, not to lose their content, but to have a more quick, interactive exchange of views rather than a lecturer approach, if I may say so, okay? But because I think the issue that you're going to discuss requires and gives value to this approach of discussion is faithful or unfaithful? Are we talking about unfaithful scenarios of reproductions and so forth, or faithful reproduction of cultural goods? I think that's a very key question that everything, starting from me, if I may say so, after this discussion this morning, brings in my heart. Where do I move from faithful and unfaithful? And this, when you talk about the passage between memory and simulation, you're talking about, you know, being faithful or unfaithful in terms of simulating what was in the past, what we were. And remember what we discussed this morning. It pertains to the fact that it's not talking about a single piece of art. Regards the environmental, the social environmental, humanitarian, territorial environment in which all of this was brought up. So that we look at one object, we have to see the community around it. How this regards the cultural identity of countries that participate into this digital reproduction. So I want to insist on the faithful and unfaithful. I want to, if I may, just start from you, and please, let's move.
Thank you very much for your question. Can I have my presentation? I would like to ask whether my presentation is possible to. Okay, maybe without the present. Oh yes, thank you very much. So I would like to show you some presentation. Actually, the digital twin for cultural heritage is more than a static 3D model. It's a living digital model of a physical object which can be updated and used for monitoring, simulation, and planning conservation work. And yes, sorry. Can I move back this slide? Oh, two. Sorry. Okay, thank you very much. So regarding fidelity, viewing it as a simple choice between faithful and unfaithful is not helpful, I think. The reality is more complex. All digital data exists on a spectrum of interventions. From the moment of capture, the data is changed. The software and the hardware automatically process it through steps like AI image enhancement or data filtering. These changes are often hidden and beyond the user's control. Therefore, the goal isn't to create a perfect faithful twin, which is impossible, I think. The real goal is to ensure that every step and intervention in its creation is transparent and thoroughly documented. A truly valuable digital twin isn't one that claims perfection, it's one where its entire history is clearly recorded. The tools used, the processing applied, and its known limitations. This documentation is an ethical duty to ensure future generations can trust and understand the data we create. So, yeah, this is the end.
Great. Now, I forgot to present to you the panelists that you haven't seen before. So you were part of our discussion this morning, so everybody knows you. But I want to just introduce Matteo Greco. Thank you for coming. Matteo Greco is a researcher at Digital Heritage Innovation Lab at the Italy National Research Council. Luigi Oliva. Thank you for coming here with us. Luigi Oliva is Director of Central Institute of Restoration. And Giorgio Sobra. Thank you again for being here. Giorgio Sobra is an architect and PhD in History of Architecture. And he works at the Central Institute of Restoration in Italy, very important component of our project. Alessandro Conti, who is, I have the honor to be a colleague of mine. He works at the University of Florence. He's been with us on this project since the very beginning. And he also is an architect with a strong commitment to cultural heritage conservation. The others you met before. And not to be polite, but only to make my service to the discussion, I want to ask Ona now to please come into discussion and bring your idea about a very important issue, which is digital twins for public engagement and tourism. Is that a correct approach?
Okay, let's start that I come from the conservation side,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
But I work in the Department of Culture and Tourism. And these discussions all the time with my colleagues made me reflect why we do what we do. And this why, which is probably what has been discussed in the previous panel a lot, and Grazia kind of came back to this question, perché? Why do we do what we do, and what is the purpose of what we are documenting? Unfaithful or faithful? Well, I'm not really sure if I will answer that question. But definitely, I can talk about why we use it for public engagement and tourism, and if it's useful or not. And I think it was answered in the other panels as well. But I would like to talk about two principles that I think they were somehow mentioned, and I will go back to them. We have what is called the CARE principles for indigenous data and the FAIR principles. The CARE principles talk about collective benefit, authority for control, responsibility, and ethics. And the FAIR principles talk about findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And I think these two principles reflect the why we are recording the data. And it's because we want to disseminate as well. So even if I come from the background of conservation, it doesn't stop there. We disseminate, and this is what why we protect the sites, why we reproduce or make simulations. Also, we we see here, it talks about threats, risks to cultural heritage, being over-tourism, one of them. And also in the previous panel, there was mention about how we can take a closer look at objects, sites, where maybe we don't have access anymore. They might be at high risk, or they are just under renovation, like restoration, and they're closed momentaneously. We see, I was 2 weeks ago in Berlin, and one of the biggest museums of Berlin is closed until 2030, if the earliest. So how can we close these sites for so long? But they need, we need, like our body, they need to get repaired, maintained. So how do we do this, but also share it with the public while this is happening? In that sense, definitely a digital twin, being a copy exact or not, being unfaithful to this millimeter accuracy or not, helps to share in time and to the, or in real time or not, but to the public. Also could serve not only in the tourism purposes, but also to engage the public, the students, have closer look, analyze how this was produced, and also serve for creativity that was also already mentioned.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Listen, Matteo Greco, at this point, I want to ask you, if I may, how the concept of digital twin for cultural heritage should be redefined, if need to be redefined.
Okay, thank you for the question. Oh, yeah, I have to say that actually there are several initiatives, both at European level and at national level, that are working on the creation of these kind of platforms. So short answer is yes, it should be redefined. It's being redefined. It has been redefined. So it's actually it's related to the emerging needs of the different communities that are involved in this kind of projects. And the projects that are currently going on at this level all share common objectives, common ambitious objectives about conservation, about decision-making support for the management and preservation of the artifacts, and also aspects related to valorization of them. So they have different perspectives and different ways of seeing these kind of objectives, so they need different way of representing the information. For example, we have at European level the HS project, and also in some way it's similar to the Italian digital library project, that are more the primary objective is the aggregation and the collection of information produced in other external realities, and then to disseminate the kind of information and put them together available to others. Whilst, for example, in Italy, we are building a platform for the IRIS research infrastructure that is working, that is most focused on the creation of the data itself, that then will be collected, for example, inside these kind of platforms. And all these projects do what they are doing by relying not only on 3D representation technologies, but they also are increasingly using semantic web technologies. And this is one of the main elements that let us interconnect and let different knowledge domains talk together. And this is something that is leading the creation of the open science clouds for cultural heritage at European level. So digital twin, I have to say, it's not just a dynamic information object, because it's fed by different sources that keep updating the information related to this, but it's dynamic also. It must be dynamic also in the way it changes the way it is represented.
Very clear. And this brings back to Ona's issue about conservation. And I want to ask Giorgio Sobra if we're talking about the reproduction only for preservation purposes or for new engagement of tourism, entertaining issues, and so forth. This is a balance between the conservation approach, institutional conservation approach, and the new way we can think about the use of this reproduction. Please.
Well, of course, no. The short answer is no. We of course have to focus not only on conservation, but if we think about engagement, engagement is part of conservation, in fact, because if we do not reach the engagement of the community, conservation is not possible. We've been reaching this idea some decades ago. So engagement and this kind of instruments are part of conservation, are the base of conservation. We were talking about over-tourism, and over-tourism is, of course, one of the big issues we're facing nowadays. But it's not the only one we can face through digital twins. For example, we have part of the heritage which is not accessible for physical reasons. There's examples of which are very simple. For example, we're working nowadays with the Institute on a small crypt in Matera, which is very small and practically inaccessible to the public, so it's not well known, and the knowledge and the engagement of the community, as we said, is part of the preservation of this kind of cultural heritage. So in this case, we've been producing a digital twin that has two main purposes: to sustain our activity in the conservation of the paintings which are inside, and also to allow people to know it better and to get engaged with the preservation of the cultural heritage itself.
Great, very, very important. And let me ask Dr. Oliva, you cover a very important point with the Institute of Reconstruction, and so my question is, what we're talking about, digital twins applied to cultural heritage, truly addresses, in your view, today's challenges that we face in terms of the dimension and the critical aspect that still are probably sometimes overlooked in this approach?
Well, just to start, we should consider that drawing the cultural heritage, drawing creativity in history became with another intent completely. People used to draw in order to learn from art. We can, for example, have a lot of drawing of lost artworks that were made by other artists in order to learn about them. So what is different in the approach today is that sometimes there's a split, there's a difference between people aiming at learning from art and people aiming at preserving the material part. So the first challenge is to try to link again these matters, and also to establish a strong relation to what is material and what is virtual, in terms that, for example, restorers, which are now a very important professional in the field of cultural conservation, should have ability to exchange that data acquired from virtual reality. At the moment, there's a shift, there's a technological shift that sometimes make difficult to use that huge quantity of data in a way that is usable for restorers, for conservators. And this should be overdrawn. Also, there's sometimes a problem in the knowledge about ICT, because not every people is confident with the use of such platforms. And another challenge is, for example, the relation between material cultural heritage and an intangible one, because sometimes it's difficult to relate them and to preserve the intangible, everything that is intangible around the cultural history. For example, episodes that characterized the goods and whatsoever. And finally, another challenge is to try to draw a perspective in the development of the ICT, because we experienced that every kind of knowledge that is based to high level of technology becomes old in very quick time. And thinking about it means that we spend a lot of money now to acquire information and data that in few years can be unuseful, for example, because we are changing our machines, we are changing the softwares, and we are not able to keep in a proper archive all that data. So this is another challenge that is quite important. We need to make an history of the digital twin, because the digital twin now is something that is in our common life, and it has become something that is artistic as well, because, for example, we have an NFT piece of art and something like that. So we should find a way to preserve and to make sense of every kind of activity we do now and we've done in the past in this field.
Great. Alessandro, this brings me to one point that you know better than everybody else, is we're living into a multi-system of streaming, of data streaming. How can we integrate those streams of data to make sure that we get to a coherent digital twin at the end? I don't know if I'm making the point clearly, but you work on the integration of digital streams sources, and I think listening to our discussion today, this is a key issue about it's not only a technical issue, it's a content issue about the final result we can achieve.
Yes, surely it is. When we talk about digital twins, we have to consider that they are such a trendy topic now that it seems they are surrounded now by them, like in the replicants in science fiction movies. But we have also to consider that, as you said, a digital twin is the relation between two persons or two things, a physical or twin and the digital one. So a digital twin is something different from a simple 3D model, or and also from a model which integrates some data, like could be a beam or H-beam as example. A digital twin is something that must allow some interactions between two sides. And in this way, it's important, as you said, that there is a stream of data between them. In this point, I don't see most of them really complete. There are some tentatives, there are some approaching to fully fledged digital twins. And, but if there is no interaction, if it's not possible to have a reaction when something happens to one side, is not really a digital twin. In this case here, we are presenting, and in the afternoon it's possible to see better, the case study of the growth of the animals, in which we have some IoT sensors, and it's possible to see in real time what's happening inside this artwork. And, but it's not really a digital twin for now, because it's not possible for now to act on it. If this is another issue, because in case of it's different from new buildings or heritage buildings, as example. In this case, is difficult. I've seen, I have been really interested to your presentation about the fire prevention system here in Japan, and this is a reaction to a real reaction to something that happens or is acquired from some sensors. In this case, for now, and I think maybe it's better in many cases, we need some human interaction. We can have some alert from objects, and maybe for now it's better that there is a human assessment of what it must be done for now.
Very, very interesting. I just want to close it by, very informally ask you, and I will start with Ona, since you give me the privilege of being the lady in our panel. Just a last comment. What do you bring with you away from this day of discussion and this panel? Your first thought.
Interaction. So digital twins, first we have to define what is digital twins. I'm not really sure it was clear for the public what digital twins are. Even for us, I think it's an ongoing topic, but it's more than a 3D model, as Alessandro was saying. It is this interaction with the model to make decisions. It's more than something static. Mm-hmm. It's something that keeps on moving and help us to manage the sites, conserve the sites, disseminate the sites. It's a bit intangible still.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Professor, you want to say your last day comment on this, or what you feel about it?
Yeah, actually, as a lots of information in this question, I was quite impressed, and actually, as before this session, I discussed with my Japanese colleagues, and our problem is because of the language barrier, we couldn't join the discussion in the world level or Mediterranean level. So I would like to say the next time I would like to ask our Japanese colleagues to join this discussion. Okay. And more diverse to bring this kind of round table. Thank you very much.
Great. It would be welcome. It would be a nice contribution to our discussion. Matteo Greco, please give us your final thoughts.
Just a quick thought that at the end, seems to me that digital twin is, given that it needs to have multidisciplinary information, and so experts working in different domains that use the digital twins somehow to talk together, to work together. So digital twin is almost a collaboration element that brings people together to create something that is really enriched by different knowledge.
Very important, yes. Luigi Oliva, please.
Well, just in conclusion, from the point of view of my institution, the digital twin is surely something that is usable for not only knowledge about cultural heritage, but also something that can be usable for experimentation. Because for example, we now use 3D reconstruction to test the possibility to bring objects from a place to another instead of experimenting directly on the authentic ones. And also it's useful in some places to bring the possibility to train people on digital heritage without moving the authentic one. So there are perspectives that are very, very important in the field of conservation that can be developed more.
It's your...
well, I'm the last one, so it's...
the last one, very important. The last one is the most important.
Most have been said. Well, we can focus on one last thing, that is the role of digital twins. In antiquity, there were copies. You know, copies were made of the most important work of art, and they propagated all around, and frequently now we only know the originals through copies. This is an unfortunate occasion, of course, but we also have to think about this, because digital twins will be, in some occasions, the only information, detailed information on the originals that the future generations will have on some of the elements of our huge cultural heritage. So this is one of the roles, not the intended one, I think, because the most important rules of these digital twins are others, but this is one of the aims which we will unfortunately be in the occasion of use in the future.
Great. What the best way of concluding this discussion, I think, it's to make of copies the only true element of reference we're going to have. I think it's a very key intellectual issue more than scientific and so forth. Thank you very much. Thank you again, and I will see you this afternoon at the workshops we're going to have here. They're going to be very involving, very participating, interactive occasion for young people and not only young people. So thank you again for being part of the discussion, and we'll see you soon.